Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios deep in the heart of stately Maine Manor, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. You can follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. And folks, went to the Bangor Comic and Toy Convention this past weekend and met hardcore wrestling legend Mick Foley, and also fantastic wrestling superstar Mickie James. And my wife went with me, and we were in line waiting to meet Mick Foley. And I was trying to tell her, because my wife is not a wrestling fan, as I have told you before, and she doesn't know who Mick Foley is. So I was trying to explain, the Hell in the Cell match and that he was thrown off the cell. And she asked me if he died. And I said, no, we're meeting him today. And she's like, no, I meant, did his character die? And I said, no, he came back and actually wrestled the match. And so then I met Mick Foley, got him to sign my copy of Have a Nice Day, and we took some pictures together. And I was telling him, I said, my wife is not a wrestling fan. I was trying to explain some of your matches. And he told her that I was exaggerating all of his accomplishments. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Mickie James could not have been nicer. I told her, I said, I saw you here 3 years ago when you were with WWE, and you got one of the biggest pops of the night. And she said, somebody was here earlier and said that. And that's just fantastic to hear. And I wish Vince had heard that pop. And so I said, yeah. And we kind of laughed at that. And then she autographed a picture for me, and we took some pictures together. So just an all-around great time. Today, we're going to be looking at Saturday night's main event from October 1986. Saturday night's main event number 7 was shown on NBC on October the 4th, 1986. It was taped from the Richfield Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio, outside of Cleveland on September the 13th, 1986. There were 21,000 people in attendance, and the show did a 9.4 rating on NBC. Jesse Ventura is back with no hat or head covering, just a mustache, and he says he's back with a new look for a new season of Saturday night's main event. And of course, the pleasure will be all ours. Jake Roberts is in the shower with Damien. He says to Ricky Steamboat that there are two types of people in the world, winners and losers. In tonight's snake pit match, Steamboat will be the loser. Johnny V says the Dream Team will regain the titles tonight. The Wizard is with Kamala. He says all the wrestlers should look long and hard because this is their destiny. Bobby Heenan is with Paul Orndorff. They say Orndorff is the next WWF champion and the only real American. Hulk Hogan says tonight is the night Orndorff goes down. Orndorff had it all, and now it's all over. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? We then go to our opening credits. Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura welcome us to Saturday night's main event. Jesse says he saw the last Saturday night's main event, and Vince is nothing without Jesse Ventura. They then talk about the injury to Roddy Piper before throwing it to Mean Gene Okerlund, who is with Roddy Piper. They show footage of Piper being injured by Adrian Adonis, Don Morocco, and company. Piper goes off on the people who injured him and the doctors who say he can't wrestle. He says he's not going to sit back and not wrestle. Vince and Jesse then talk about Paul Orndorff turning on Hulk Hogan. Hogan talks about how he and Orndorff were so close, and he can't believe Orndorff sold him out for nothing. He says Orndorff's time is tonight. He's loyal to his Hulkamaniacs. Paul Orndorff and Bobby Heenan tell their side of the story to Mean Gene. Heenan calls Hulk Hogan a liar. Orndorff says he's going to rip his tongue out of his mouth and put it on his championship belt. Heenan says they've got the music to prove Orndorff is the best. Mean Gene asks him if he means real American, and Heenan tells him not to concern himself with that. They then head to the ring. WWF Championship match. Hulk Hogan versus Paul Orndorff with Bobby Heenan. Orndorff and Heenan do come out to Real American. Orndorff gets in the ring and poses like Hogan. Hogan is shown in the back with Mean Gene. Hogan picks Mean Gene up and puts him aside because he doesn't have time to talk. He heads to the ring determined. Hogan gets a good reaction coming out. Hogan rushes Orndorff, who moves out of the way and attacks Hogan with a series of right hands. Heenan gets up on the apron to distract Hogan, who comes over, but Orndorff clotheslines him from behind to knock Hogan to the outside. Orndorff follows him out and kicks and stomps Hogan. He goes to run Hogan's head into the apron. Hogan blocks it and runs Orndorff into the apron instead. Back in, Hogan with some chops. Hogan with a right hand to Orndorff. He runs him into the corner turnbuckle. Then into another turnbuckle to knock Orndorff down. Heenan gets up on the apron and reaches into his pocket like he's going for something. Hogan knocks him off the apron with a punch. Orndorff hits Hogan with a right hand to the throat. Orndorff dropping knees on Hogan. A Hogan chant goes out as Orndorff drapes Hogan's head over the apron and kicks his head. Hogan falls to the floor, taking out the timekeeper and several other people sitting at ringside. Orndorff wraps a mic cord around Hogan's throat and is choking him. Orndorff posing again. Orndorff dropping knees on Hogan again, then a thrust to the throat. That gets a 2 count. Orndorff suplexes Hogan. He then kicks Hogan. Hogan reverses an Irish whip and hits Orndorff with a high knee, a scoop slam to Orndorff. He goes to leg drop Orndorff, but Heenan grabs his leg and won't let go. Orndorff goes to charge Hogan, but he ducks and Orndorff goes over the top and takes out Heenan as well. The referee throws Heenan out of the match, so a group of cops come and grab Heenan and throw him out. When they come back from the commercial, Heenan is shown banging on the door to the arena, screaming to be let in. Back in the arena, Orndorff on the outside, and Hogan comes out to follow. He chases Orndorff back into the ring, but gets attacked by Orndorff as he tries to get in. Orndorff drops a forearm on Hogan. He then drops an elbow on Hogan. He chokes Hogan up to a 4 count. Orndorff with a backbreaker. He drops an elbow on Hogan for a 2 count. Orndorff with a short clothesline. Orndorff signals for the pile driver. Hogan counters into a backdrop. Orndorff attacks Hogan, who hulks up. A series of right hands knock Orndorff down. A short clothesline to Orndorff. Hogan sets up a pile driver when someone from the audience comes in and attacks Hogan. Hogan tears the hat and wig off, and it's Adrian Adonis. Orndorff attacks Hogan from behind. Orndorff and Adonis attack Hogan. Roddy Piper is shown limping towards the ring with his crutch. Piper attacks Adonis with the crutch. He then attacks Orndorff. Piper and Hogan almost go at it with blows, with Jesse yelling to Piper to hit Hogan with his crutch. Piper throws his crutch down and limps towards the back. And then, of course, Hogan must pose. Mean Gene talks to Jake Roberts in the showers. They talk about the DDT to Ricky Steamboat on the floor on the last Saturday night's main event, and about Steamboat beating Roberts at the big event. Roberts says there's no way Steamboat beats him again. Mean Gene then talks to Ricky Steamboat. He has a Komodo lizard he calls a dragon to even the odds. Snake pit match. Jake Roberts with Damien versus Ricky Steamboat with a dragon. They lock up. Steamboat with a waist lock. Roberts comes back with a wrist lock. Steamboat reverses and chops Roberts. Steamboat with a wrist lock. He backdrops Roberts. That gets a 2 count for Steamboat. Steamboat with an arm drag. He turns that into an arm bar. Steamboat drags Roberts over to the bag with the dragon in it. Steamboat reverses an Irish whip and slams Roberts down. That gets another 2 count for Steamboat. It goes outside. Back in, Steamboat with another arm drag. Back to an arm bar for Steamboat. Roberts is near Steamboat's corner. He reaches his foot out to touch the bag and it moves. Roberts scoots away quickly. Roberts with a shot to the eyes. Corner whip to Steamboat, and Roberts misses the charge when Steamboat moves. Steamboat slingshots Roberts into the turnbuckle. He then slams Roberts down to the mat. Steamboat goes up top. He goes to splash Roberts, but Roberts gets his knees up and Steamboat is hurt. They each go to their own corners towards their bags. Roberts rushes over and cuts off Steamboat from going for his bag. Inverted backbreaker-like move as Roberts slams his knee into Steamboat's stomach. That gets a 2 count for Roberts. Roberts with an Irish whip and drives his shoulder into the midsection. A Steamboat chant goes out. Roberts with a short clothesline. Roberts with a scoop slam. Roberts drives knees into Steamboat. Then Roberts choking Steamboat, but breaking on the count of 3. Back and forth. Roberts with a knee lift to knock Steamboat down. Roberts with a throat thrust, and Steamboat is wobbly. Roberts with a snap mare. He gets a 2 count. Steamboat slams Roberts headfirst on the mat. Roberts with an inverted atomic drop. Roberts with an Irish whip. Steamboat comes back with a crucifix to get the pin. Roberts hits a knee to the back to knock Steamboat to the outside. Roberts goes out and rams Steamboat back first into the corner post. He puts Steamboat back in the ring. Roberts goes and gets Damien, but backs up when Steamboat comes at him with the dragon. Mean Gene talks to Hulk Hogan about his title defense against Paul Orndorff. Hogan says he was Judge Hogan and passed sentence on Orndorff and Bobby Heenan. He then warns Roddy Piper not to come into his courtroom. Even though Piper was looking for Adrian Adonis and took him out, he stared at Hogan with tombstones in his eyes. He says he's going to process Orndorff and Heenan guilty as charged. Vince and Jesse talk about what Hogan said, and Jesse says he still has questions. Pre-tape of Jesse Ventura talking to Slick and the Iron Sheik. Slick says Sheik is going to be the next heavyweight champion of the world. They are ready for Roddy Piper or whoever the WWF wants to substitute for him. The Iron Sheik with Slick versus Pedro Morales. Morales is in as a substitute for Roddy Piper. Before they start, Piper comes to ringside again. He orders Morales out of the ring and says he's going to fight Iron Sheik. Sheik goes to attack Piper. Piper hits him with his crutch and then the bell rings and Piper is unloading on Sheik. Piper goes after Slick, who bails to the outside. Sheik goes after the injured leg of Piper and sets him up for a suplex. Piper reverses it and gets the win with a handful of tights. Mean Gene talks to Johnny V and the Dream Team. They show the finish of the WrestleMania 2 match where the Dream Team lost the titles. They say they were robbed and they're going to get their titles back tonight. Back from commercial, Mean Gene talks to Roddy Piper, who's sitting in the locker room drinking what looks like to be a Coke. Mean Gene asks him how he can go out and wrestle Iron Sheik after the doctors told him no. Piper pours the Coke over his own head and says he does exactly what he wants to do. He says he couldn't stand back and allow Adrian Adonis to think he took care of Piper because he's a man. Mean Gene talks to the British Bulldogs. Dynamite Kid says the Dream Team underestimated them at WrestleMania 2, and tonight is going to be like World War III. WWF World Tag Team Championship match, 2 out of 3 falls. The British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith, versus the Dream Team, Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake, with Johnny V. Dynamite Kid and Valentine start. Dynamite Kid grabs Valentine's leg and hits an atomic drop. Both Bulldogs hit Valentine, who falls down face first. Valentine coming back with chops. He gets Dynamite Kid in the corner, drapes his leg over the ropes, and attacks it with his knee. He then stomps Dynamite Kid. Beefcake tagged in. He hits a suplex on Dynamite Kid. He snaps Dynamite Kid's leg back, trying to hyperextend it. Smith tagged in. He gets a wrist lock on Beefcake. Back and forth with reverses. Smith gets Beefcake down with the wrist lock. He turns it into a hammer lock. Beefcake with a reversal. Beefcake with stomps to Smith. Valentine tagged in and hits an elbow smash as Beefcake holds Smith. Valentine drops an elbow and gets a 2 count. Smith comes back with elbow shots to Valentine, who tags out to Beefcake. Valentine with a drop toe hold to Smith, and Beefcake takes over stomping Smith. Beefcake with a high knee. He gets a 2 count. Valentine tagged back in. He misses an elbow drop. Dynamite Kid tagged in. Dynamite Kid with forearms to Valentine. A chop from Dynamite Kid knocks Valentine down. Valentine comes back with an inverted atomic drop. Valentine with a shoulder breaker for a 2 count. Valentine with a clothesline. He gets another 2 count. Beefcake tagged back in. He hits Dynamite Kid with forearms. He gets a 2 count. Valentine tagged in. Shots and chops to Dynamite Kid. Irish whip to Dynamite Kid, who comes back with a forearm to Valentine. Dynamite Kid with a headbutt and sets up for a suplex, but Valentine with a shot to stop it. Valentine gets the figure 4 on. Smith comes back to break up the hold, but Beefcake cuts him off and throws him outside. Dynamite Kid gives up. Mean Gene reports that he talked to a doctor about Adrian Adonis. Adonis may have a separated shoulder. They then show Roddy Piper hitting Adonis with his crutch. Second fall. Valentine continues to drive knees into Dynamite Kid's legs. Valentine goes for the figure 4 again, but Dynamite Kid kicks off. Beefcake tagged in and he is stomping Dynamite Kid. Beefcake and Valentine tagging in and out, and both attacking Dynamite Kid's legs with kicks and stomps. Beefcake goads Smith in. The referee tries to get him out so the Dream Team can double team Dynamite Kid. Beefcake gets a 2 count. Beefcake with a backbreaker. He gets a 2 count. Valentine tagged in. Scoop slam on Dynamite Kid. Valentine gets on the second rope. He misses an elbow drop when Dynamite Kid moves. Smith tagged in. Irish whip and a clothesline to Valentine. He drop kicks Beefcake. Headbutts Valentine. Smith with a suplex. He gets a 2 count. Smith hits a running power slam. Beefcake comes in. Smith gets him up on his shoulders. Tags Dynamite Kid in, and Dynamite Kid launches himself off of Beefcake's shoulders to hit the diving headbutt on Valentine. Dynamite Kid gets the pin. Third fall. Valentine attacks Dynamite Kid's injured knee and then chops him. Dynamite Kid comes back with chops to knock Valentine down. Dynamite Kid with a snap suplex. Dynamite Kid misses a diving headbutt. Valentine drops an elbow on Dynamite Kid. Valentine then drops a forearm. Jesse says he's been handed a note that Adrian Adonis has suffered a shattered elbow. Dynamite Kid makes a no-look tag to Smith, but the referee doesn't see it. Beefcake hits a forearm shot to Dynamite Kid from the second rope. Valentine covers and gets a 2 count. Valentine working on Dynamite Kid's leg. He goes for the figure 4, and Dynamite Kid kicks off. Beefcake and Smith both tag in. Beefcake gets Smith down for a 2 count. Beefcake with an Irish whip and a backdrop for another 2 count. Beefcake with another Irish whip and a clothesline for another 2 count. Headbutt to the groin of Smith and another 2 count for Beefcake. Beefcake with an Irish whip. Smith comes back with a sunset flip for a 2 count. Beefcake stomps Smith in the head and comes over to taunt Dynamite Kid. The Dream Team then guillotines Smith on the top rope. Valentine tagged in and dropping knees onto Smith in the heels corner. Valentine with a suplex. He gets a 2 count. Beefcake tagged back in. Beefcake with a high knee after an Irish whip. Dynamite Kid breaks up the cover. All 4 men in. Smith corner whips Beefcake and gets a fisherman suplex for the 3 count. Mean Gene talks to the Wizard, who has Kamala and Kimchi with him. The Wizard says Kamala is covered with ancient tribal signs and that no one knows the signs but him and the people of Kamala's tribe. Kamala with the Wizard and Kimchi versus Lanny Poffo. Poffo trying to stay away from Kamala and backflips away from a shot. Kamala tosses Poffo across the ring. Kamala gets Poffo in the corner and hits him with a shot. More hits and kicks knock Poffo down. Kamala with an Irish whip and a chop. More kicks to Poffo and Kamala runs him into the corner turnbuckle. He chokeslams Poffo. Another chop to Poffo. Irish whip, but Poffo ducks the clothesline and hits Kamala with some shots. Kamala with an eye rake and Irish whips Poffo and hits him with a double shot to the throat. Kamala with a scoop slam and a splash to pin Poffo. Kamala climbs to the top rope, but they stop him from splashing Poffo. Vince and Jesse recap what has happened. They then sign off from Richfield and say the next time they will be coming from Hollywood, Jesse's town, as the end credits play. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at @TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from stately Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.